Hi, this is Robert Beard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to scale your business and to become a better leader and push yourself out of your comfort zone. We encourage you to like and share with everyone to spread our messages. I'm super excited to announce our new partnership with Weathermatic. For most landscape companies, irrigation is an untapped gold mine for growth and profit, but labor and process problems stand in the way. So Weathermatic has created a partnership to package mobile technology and software with proven business solutions to tackle the perennial irrigation challenges and take your operations to a whole new level. I encourage you to reach out to Weathermatic and learn more. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Beard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. Really excited to be joined today by Rob and Brian Peppin, good friends of mine, and I managed to twist their arms to get on the show today. So thank you guys for joining me.
Yeah, you're glad to be here.
So we have quite a large audience from all places around the world. I'd love them to hear a little bit about your background. Maybe start off with you, Rob.
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of people ask me, how long have you been in the business? And sometimes I don't know what to say because, from the very beginning, that's pretty much what we've been doing since, we were in diapers. And I remember way back young, probably, I don't know, under 10, being in our pool store in, Northern California, when people coming in and, I'm testing pool water, in the store, and, we're helping retrieve gallons of muriatic acid or chlorine and putting it in, the backs of Lexuses and really expensive SUVs, and not really paying attention too much to how corrosive this stuff could be, right? And doing that at 10, coming up to probably 15, working with my dad and brother, kind of learning the ropes, and then once I was out of high school, which that was in Northern California. Then when I got out of high school, which was in the Charleston, South Carolina area, it was basically, taking all that stuff that I kind of learned throughout the years, from Dad and Brian, and kind of needing to make the decision, do I want to go down the military route, which, was kind of in my mind, or do I want to keep this knowledge that, I've kind of grown up with? And, so obviously I chose the pool route, staying in this career, and it's been 18 years now, I think, in Charleston. And, we've just basically kind of grown to learn in the industry, kind of as we go. Our dad taught us a good bit, but there was a lot of just kind of throwing me out there and learning the ropes as you go. And that's kind of where all of our experience comes from, is, a little bit of what our dad taught us and the trades that he kind of threw us in as growing up. But, for the most part, it's been, learning the ropes, just kind of failing and learning from that, and now we are, sitting at close to 100 employees, and that's kind of where our value sits, is getting that knowledge that we've been gaining throughout our youth, and now into our adulthood, into our new staff that's coming in. So yeah, it's been a lifelong venture, in the pool world, and here we are.
Awesome, thank you, Rob. Brian.
Yeah, so mine and Rob's story is very similar. So I'll probably go more into the business, more specific stuff. We own Blue Haven Pools here in Charleston, South Carolina, in Charlotte, North Carolina, in Greenville, South Carolina, and then our newest location, which is in the Hilton Head, Bluffton market. And then we also own a maintenance company. Our maintenance company is called Aqua Shop Pool Services, where we do all the weekly maintenance for roughly about a little over 1,000 customers now on a weekly basis. We also have a PVC importing company where we import PVC products and we sell to landscapers, pool builders, distributors, Home Depot, all that stuff. So we're kind of all over the place, but it's all kind of within our outdoor business. Everything that we do and we strive to do and we focus on is kind of affiliated with the outdoor business. We started off really heart and heavy in Charleston with our father, doing the pool business. And then we got to the point to where he wanted to move on and do other stuff. So me and Rob took over the businesses, I want to say close to 10 years ago. And we grew it from, doing a little over 6 to 8 million in revenue to a little over 50 million in revenue now. So we're growing and building teams and going to new markets.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing growth there. And I know you've received multiple awards in South and North Carolina in terms of fastest growing businesses. What was your recent one, Brian?
Yeah, so this year we actually got nominated for 3 different awards. We got one for the there's an organization called the SC Fastest Growing, and that basically is where it's the 50 top fastest growing businesses in the entire state of South Carolina, and we were brought in at number 29 in the entire state. So for us, for a pool group, when you're competing against everybody, and that includes car dealerships and big manufacturers, it was kind of a big deal to us. And then we got another award that is what they call the best in business. So and this was in the medium group category. So this was, there was only one winner available, and we got that amongst the entire state. And then our general manager also got, within the same award group, the best general manager in the entire state of South Carolina in our Charleston location. And then a little more local awards. We got, the best in Charleston, which it seems like every kind of city has their best, and plumbers and landscapers and all that. So we got the best pool business in Charleston. We got the best pool business in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina also. So we're definitely pushing the envelope and trying to do the best.
And still pushing. Now I know that you talked about going from roughly 6-ish million up to 50 million, and I think this year roughly you're planning on doing about roughly 500 new pool installs from memory serves me correct.
We did 400 last year, and that's our goal, is to market as long as the market's acceptable to that as an economy, that's what we're pushing for.
Cool, that's awesome. The with going through those, every company goes through different types of growth challenges or hit plateaus. What were some of the key areas that you uncovered as you're going through those growth phases, and what were some of the things you introduced to help you break through some of those challenges?
Yes, I'll probably go over like some of the 50,000 foot view and let Rob probably go into some of the specifics. But our biggest challenge, obviously, we hit a lot of our growth during COVID, which a lot of pool businesses did. And so the main issues that we were running into was, while we were dealing with our growth, because we were going to new locations right around that time frame, is just simply trying to find staff, finding good staff, good people. That was a major challenge. And then just not being afraid to bring on people that are smarter than you, right? We're learning as we go, and we knew that there was no way for us to be able to get to the next point or the next chapter in our lives with continuing to make mistakes, going down the road. And so we brought on some key people that allowed us to continue to grow, but also not make the same mistakes that maybe they made, with other companies that they were with. That was a key challenge with our growth, but also a key part of our success was, bringing on some additional people to help us at more of the executive level.
Yeah, cool, Rob.
Yeah, and one of the big aspects to our growth recently, like what Brian was saying, was, with COVID, we were comfortable, before COVID, and we were just, doing our thing. We had a really good operation going in Charleston, and we were just comfortable. But when the growth basically started demanding that we expand, and be able to take on that growth, we really had a decision to make, and that was to either do it or not do it. It wasn't just in Charleston. We were also kind of getting asked to help with some additional markets, and that's when the whole Charlotte market came on. And so when we decided, okay, we're going to do this, we realized that our experience at that point could only get us so far, and could only get us to be able to do things a certain way, and that was the kind of not necessarily uneducated, but uneducated. We don't have business degrees, or anything like that. So the thing that I really started focusing on is, okay, if we're going to do this, I need to learn. I need to learn how to get to the next step and get all of our processes and procedures in place to where we can do this and we can do it the right way, and make sure that our customers, don't feel the pain of our growth. So we kind of focused on that first, and and that's like Traction. That was, I think, one of the first books that I had picked up. Learning the whole EOS, way of life. And with that, it just kind of brought on a lot of other things that when you start reading those kinds of books, it just kind of leads you down different roads. And that would definitely be something that I would encourage anybody that's trying to grow and grow responsibly is you got to educate yourself. There's so many different people out there that have already done this, so many times before. And so why try to go down that road and fumble when there's so many resources out there that tell you the right way to do it. And so we just really started implementing all of those, the small little things, a CRM software, which we really didn't, we had used a product called Builder Trend, for our job management software, but it was only little, kind of one part of the business. We didn't really have an operating system that we kind of worked inside of. So with EOS, we kind of got our teams to talk together better. And then a sales platform we really didn't use, so we started looking at, different professionals that could integrate our current workflow, our current sales process into, we originally did Zendesk, and then we've recently moved to HubSpot. And so just getting our sales process in one program, our job management software, we continue to use Builder Trend for that. And then, simple things like using, Trello or 90, to help with getting teams to talk together. What's the recent one that I think you introduced me to, Notion? So just those kinds of softwares that we really had to integrate into the business to get everybody sort of like what, Brian always says this, get all of the teams out of their own little silos, and get everybody to be able to talk together. Really prior to us really developing this, the common terminologies now that me and Brian kind of always use of what's a KPI, those kinds of metrics, prior to learning it recently, we didn't really use, because it was just what me and Brian knew, what our experience, throughout our youth had taught us. But it was none of the major business stuff. And so once we learned all of that, and then going down that road, we determined, okay, so there's a lot of stuff we don't know. So what's the best way to get to that level without us having to really struggle with it? So we decided, we were going to bring on a sales professional, and then also an operational professional. And, you've met Doug, our executive vice president, and he's really been able to help us get our growth to a good point.
Piggybacking on what he was saying with Doug and getting us to the point of the growth is just simply what, when you have an organization that everybody's looking up to you, right? Because we had all these employees and contractors, and you add all of that up. I mean, you're talking hundreds of families that are relying on you to provide them with their livelihoods and their food on their plate. And that didn't sit light with us, at all, and so we knew that if we continued the growth pattern that we were having, not only is it exciting, but it's a big level of responsibility when it comes to now you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families. And that's something that always kept me up at night. Whenever you see, economic downturns, or whenever you see slow months in sales, or whatever, you're like, all right, we have 7 excavators and 8 plumbers and, 9 steel tires between all these, we got to make sure that their families are taken care of. And so there's numerous occasions where we decided to where, hey, you know what, as long as we can keep our people happy and keep our people going, we're not going to worry about the profitability for this month, right? Because we needed to keep our people, because when the economy did turn back around, or that month, recovered, that we still had our people there. And those are the things that I was focused on, and Rob was focused on. And then, we brought in some of these professionals, and they allowed them to start working on the business side of it, putting together the pieces of the pie that we had kind of scattered into one pie, and then now putting it into the oven to really bake it and make it seem and make it come out to where the entire staff is now in line and has one vision, and we're all moving forward together, instead of kind of like I do say a lot, is being kind of separated in different silos.
Yeah, and silos.
Yeah. So
I know a couple of the other challenges you went through was, the financial transparency, just getting some of the financials insight amongst the company. And then obviously culture is hugely important to you guys as well. I know you had some challenges when you first went into Charlotte, but the fact that you brought in A players in your team and having a great culture, and I attended one of your staff events, which was amazing. So I'd love to hear more about that, Rob.
Yeah, Charlotte was a difficult thing, right? Because we were coming into a market that there was it was a full-fledged operating system there. The original owner, I think was wanting to retire and stuff, and so the current staff that was there was used to their operating system, their way of functioning, which was completely different than ours. And so obviously us coming in there and changing just everything, the way that they communicate, how they treat customers. There's probably one aspect of the business that wasn't changed. So that alone was a culture issue. I think we have one employee that was from the old regime that is still with us today, and a lot of that had to do with COVID and people. Just, I think it was like 50% of businesses saw turnover during that time. Luckily, our Charleston division didn't experience that, but Charlotte certainly did. We've got, pretty much a new staff up there. It's been, I think, 3 years now. I couldn't imagine a culture being any better. A lot of that isn't from me and Brian. It's from the newer executives that we've hired, that's had this experience before, of taking that many people and just getting them to work together. It goes back to kind of what we were saying before. You got to find the right people to help you in the fields that maybe you don't have the best experience in.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes back to the whole there was things that were extraordinarily important to us when we brought some of these adults to the table, is what Doug would say. And one of them was our 5-star reviews, right? Because we knew that the 5-star reviews are great, right? They're great for marketing. They're great for people to understand what our customers are saying, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more where when you are everybody in the company is customer centric around wanting to provide the best experience for that homeowner or for that any customer that you're dealing with. And you're able to now sit back and say, hey guys, our goal is to be able to ask for that 5-star review at the end of the job. Well, now maybe when they're halfway through the job and they get that text at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, they may go out of their way a little bit more, when, it's on a Friday night or Thursday, and that customer has got a concern. Well, we don't want that customer thinking about that over the whole weekend until Monday, comes around, and then Monday happens and you forget to respond to them. So if they know that they're going to have to ask for that review at the end of the job, the employee tends to know, okay, hey, I may go out of my way a little bit more because this may stand out to that customer when I do go to ask for that review at the end of the job. And so it creates just an overall better experience with that customer and either our project manager or construction manager at that particular moment. And it's been huge for us. I mean, we have on average a 75% success rate when it comes from a pool that we completed to a customer giving us a 5-star review. And I'll put that percentage up against most out there. I probably safe to say that most customers or most businesses don't get a 75% success rate with conversion from completed project to, an online 5-star review.
100%,
Yeah.
especially involving construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely like the lifeblood of our culture. Everybody knows that the number one thing in our company, the most important thing is, being customer centric and making sure that our customers are taken care of. And, obviously you're going to have, some customers that are just difficult to, that they don't mesh with our culture, essentially. But we will always try and, do the right thing. Our staff members know that it's not the money that's the most important thing. It's getting that good review, and it's ending that project on a good note, the customer getting what they paid for. And as soon as we kind of made that the primary focus with our team members, everything just kind of changed. The attitude towards the customers changed. They just know that's, if a bad review comes across me and Brian's, phones, which, is, used to be, a huge stressor for us. But nowadays, it's just, it's very rare that we get a bad review. But it's because the employees know that that's the number one thing in our company that's important.
No, I love that. Yeah, and that's, as you mentioned earlier, really tough to get in the construction industry, the pool industry, especially if projects are going over, 3-6 months. So yeah, I've actually been sharing that story with multiple other clients of mine. When I came down to your office back in December, you're out of this, so I think it's an old cigar warehouse, and you've created this really cool hub where it allows you and Brian to brainstorm, to do some learning development. You've got this whiteboard there, and you're able to brainstorm ideas, which again I think is super cool. When you come up with some ideas you think would be good introducing to the company, you probably experienced this in the past where here's another one of Rob and Brian's ideas, and not another one type thing. How do you introduce some of those ideas and make it stick within your company? Because that must be pretty challenging.
There used to be a saying where Rob and Brian are going on vacation again together. They're going to come back with a new idea or whatever. Kind of became like a running joke, within, the organization. But we also knew that me and Rob being inside of the individual offices, the individual operations offices every day, it almost hindered them a little bit because everybody was kind of walking around on pins and needles, like they didn't want to say the wrong thing, or they don't want to make a comment the wrong way, or make a decision the wrong way. And so it kind of prevented them from kind of blossoming within their own organization. So we knew we kind of had to get out of the individual operations office and let the managers do what they were hired to do. And so we made a little corporate hub as our own, is what we call it. It's kind of like a little regional office in Charleston, in a facility called the Cigar Factory that was renovated a few years ago. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful building. And so now Rob, I are human resources, our EVP, Doug, and then our sales executive comes in and out depending on what market he's in. And we all kind of work out of that area. And we've got a kind of communal office space. And then we have a think tank room. And then we have a conference room. And you're right. I mean, we put up a lot of ideas. And I think what we do a little bit better today than what we did historically is we think through them a little bit more before we push them down to an individual office or an individual employee. Before, because they were all right there, we used to just bring them in and say, hey, what do you think about this? And it was always just, what do you think about this type of idea? Now we put it up, we brainstorm about it, we sleep on it, we think about it, and we kind of flush it through 100%. And we bounce it off of 3 or 4 of us before we push it down to an employee. So now when we push an idea down or a new process or procedure, it's been thought through, it's been massaged, and our success rate amongst those ideas are much higher because they have gone through that think tank session a little bit more than they used to historically. And anytime that you can see an idea or a new concept works and it's shown that it works with the staff, now they don't have the guard up as much as they used to. They don't not buy into it as much. And so I think that overall, it's just been more on us to make sure that whatever we do, whatever we want to roll out, just goes through that think tank process a little bit more. And then now the staff kind of buys into it a little bit faster.
No, I love that. Anything further, Rob?
No, I mean, it's just, I'm probably the most guilty one on that because I do like to read, and it's not even necessarily a lot of times the content of what I'm reading, but in the message of the book or article or whatever, but it's the thought process that comes from what I'm reading, and the thought creation of, oh, okay, how can I make this, work in our own businesses? And, so I'll write down all these ideas and, something that I think might be the greatest thing ever. I'll present it to Brian and be like, God, yeah, this is what we should do. Brian's like, yeah, well, yeah, maybe, maybe at some point. And I'm like, oh man, what the heck? I thought this was such a good thing. But then even some things that we do agree on, then we'll get it in front of Doug, and Doug may do the same thing to us, and kind of shoot us down because maybe it's just too soon. And that's that goes a lot to the book. I think it's Rocket Fuel.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. Just that relationship, right, between like what me and Brian are, the visionary owners, to the integrator, which is Doug, so we have all these ideas, but we have to let Doug in the position that he's in to determine if it's the right time to do those ideas. So a lot of times me and Brian think that something's great, we should do it now. And, Doug might be like, well, maybe not yet. And we kind of have to let him make those decisions,
Right.
Because if not, then the relationship just doesn't work out. So that's really something that me and Brian, I think, have had to, accept, because if we're putting him in that kind of position, then we got to let him do his thing. So, yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Brian.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just more of I've struggled with this big time and they all know, everybody knows it in the company, is just that I'm more of a get shit done type of guy. And when something's wrong or something's going on, I'm like, all right, let's get on the phone. Let's work this out. Let's figure it out and let's move forward. And I've had to dial that way back and allow the people that we've hired to do their job and to not cut the legs out from another staff member because the owner's going directly to them or they're going directly to an owner, sort of thing. So that's been a big struggle, just for me in general. You learn, and I've definitely learned over the years, hey, you got to let the people that you've hired, to do what they were hired to do and allow them to grow, even amongst themselves with the staff.
No, absolutely. And I think, it almost sounds like, the two biggest things I hear are, for your success is, the two of you being allowed to go off and learn, develop, bring ideas back, but then obviously having the right team in place, that executive team to allow you to grow and scale the company. And so you've maybe, I suppose, adapted over time to come up with a nice balance between the two, but you still need that team to be able to take your ideas and actually, make them happen on the ground level. But it seems like a good balance here.
Before we had any of this major growth, right, Rob and I kind of had our parts of the business that we dealt with. Rob did a lot of the construction operations type stuff. I did a lot of more of the sales, marketing, and business side of it, right? And we kind of just stayed in our own silos. And it kind of also hindered our growth a little bit, right? Because I didn't want to get in his stuff. He didn't want to get in my stuff. We didn't want to step on each other's toes and so on and so on. And it wasn't until we got into Charlotte where we were kind of like in the office every day, working on kind of like the same tasks that were coming about, because it was a big undertaking, that I got a little more experience into his stuff. He got a little more experience into my stuff. And now that line isn't as fine, or it isn't as hard in the line in the sand anymore. We have a meeting later on, that's with HubSpot, and that it's a sales thing, but Rob's still involved with it, right? Because it's such an important part of this organization that we got to make sure it's right. And I don't want to be the only one that's looking at it. He doesn't want to be the only one that's looking at it. Now we definitely have our experience levels, right? I kind of have more of the experience in one side. He has it more than the other, but we've also grown as young adults also, where we've matured over the years, where if I got into his stuff, or, before, he may have gotten defensive about it, or vice versa, right? And, just because we were younger, we didn't know. But now we've gotten to the point to where, we can work on the same project, and it's not a, this is my thing or his thing sort of thing. We kind of figure out, okay, I'm kind of heading this project, or he's kind of heading this project, and then we kind of give our input whenever we can give our input.
Yeah. Do you think, we touched on, you were at an event last week, and there was owners there who were in their 60s, 70s, people perhaps not experiencing the same type of growth. Do you think just between your own personal development and open to learning, collaborating on things, you think that's probably been one of the key differentiators? Because you've got owners now who are looking to potentially retire. They don't have any exit plans, don't have any very ambitious growth plans. And, you just wonder what's been the biggest obstacle to their growth?
Well, I'll start with that. So I think one of the biggest things is a lot of our peers around us that are in this industry, they're comfortable like what we were, when we just had Charleston. And they're just focusing on their grind, right? And a lot of them are still in the grind, where is what happened with me and Brian, because we said, okay, yes, we're going to expand. We had to remove ourselves from that grind and hire the right people to be able to make sure that the wheel was still going down the road, while me and Brian were focusing on, okay, how do we grow? How do we scale the right way? And so a lot of those other individuals, they go to these meetings and stuff, and when they get back, their head's buried right back into the grind. And so they're not focusing on the same thing that me and Brian are focusing on, which is how to grow. And so therefore they don't have that next level of staff, to basically put in between, them and the day-to-day functions. It's a little bit different. And it's just because of the choices that me and Brian made to expand. And now, that's what I love. It's not necessarily building pools anymore. It's growing businesses. And the operational side of the business, how do we perfect it? How do we bring tech into the business? How do we do unique things all throughout the business to make us be able to grow and hire more people? I mean, that's what gets me excited every day is, are we able to hire another person? Have we created another opportunity inside of our business to bring, a high impactful individual into our organization? Those are the things that always gets me excited every day is just being able to create more opportunities for people to join our organization. And as we grow, those opportunities become more frequent. And that's what's exciting now, is the business growth aspect of it. But back to main meat of the question, a lot of guys in the industry, that's not the road that they're going down. They're just kind of focused on their grind.
Right. Brian, anything to add there?
Yes, within our own organization, and really within most organizations, everybody, sometimes they just don't know how. Either they want to grow, but they just don't know how to get to that next level. And I mean, well before we hit any major growth, I mean, we brought a general manager on, right? And some will say, well, no, you're the general manager of your location, right? Like, yeah, we get that, right? We understand the concept of that. But when you're the GM of a group or one location, there's no way, there is zero way you're going to be able to focus on growth of the business. And I'm even talking about growth within that one organization, because you're getting hammered every day by all the stuff that's going on. You cannot focus on growth. And so even within just our main flagship location, Charleston, when we hired that GM, now we're able to figure out, okay, what do we have to do marketing wise? What do we have to do sales wise? What do we have to do this? What do we have to do that? Even with corporate, like when they would email us or reach out to us, they were getting instant, fast responses, because we're able to work on that type of stuff versus having to focus on, when's the steel tire showing up to that job because the customer was upset, right? We have a team now that's focusing on that day in, day out. I think that if what a lot of people are scared of and they get focused on is that P&L, right? Which is important. We get it. But if you're focused just on profitability every single day, day in, day out, it's going to sometimes hinder the chance for you to grow, because sometimes you have to take that money and invest it back into yourself before you can get to that next level. And that's something that we've never have been afraid to do, is reinvest it into our organization, reinvest it back into our office space and our people to provide a better working environment, to provide a better surrounding people around them. So that way we can get to that next level, and it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Final question for me. What are your future growth plans? Where do you want to be? Take over the whole Eastern region, Southeast region?
We got to be careful with that a little bit, just because this is public. But, at the end of the day, we never want to hinder our staff, right? And our staff always wants to get to that next level. And so we're always looking for new opportunities. We're always looking for new markets, to get into. We do have a 5-year goal, and we want to get to the point to where we can achieve that within 5 years. Now, if it takes 6 years or it takes 4 years, that's great. But for the most part, most of our staff and most of our managers know what that 5-year goal is, because we have those with you in our strategic meeting that we have every year. So it's transparent. It's not hidden. They all know what our core values are and where we're going. But our ultimate goal is to build as many pools as we can and to service as many pools as we can, and to sell as much pipe to whoever needs it, is as much as we can.
Thank you, Brian. Anything to add, Rob?
Yeah, just a little bit. Going back to your previous message also, I think it's important for whoever's listening that might have been in the same situation that I was in, for many years. And that's just living with the stress of the day-to-day grind. The return on investment when we hired a GM and put them in between us, the owners, and the sand, the daily sand, was huge. That stress as an owner is completely different than the stress as an employee, as the general manager that we hired. For us, the stress that we were getting every day with the sand, it's personal. And so it hits us different. And you can really start to go down some dark roads, as a business owner that's just stuck in the sand every day. So, for a business owner that's out there and it's just like, this sucks, I hate what I do. It's just too much. I want to quit, I want to give all this up. I would definitely recommend really looking into finding those individuals that can do your job that you're doing just as good as you are, and if not better, because forever, I think me and Brian always thought to ourselves, like, well, we've been doing this for a really long time. Nobody's going to be able to do this as good as we are. And so it just prevented us from hiring those people because we were afraid that nobody was going to be able to handle those customers as delicately as we were. Well, it just wasn't true. And that's been proven over and over again. We started using recruiters to find those really good hires, and it's definitely been beneficial. And when we get a new location set up, that's one of the first hires that we make as a GM. And we're spending money that we don't have necessarily on those particular individuals, but that's the part of investing back in the business that we do. We make sure that we still have the cash flow to be able to hire those people so that we're immediately starting off on a good foot, with a good individual in that particular position that can immediately, look at the numbers, that can immediately, talk to the customer. It may not even be somebody that's proficient in the industry, but it's, Brian had just said, another adult in the room that's got the experience dealing with, different kinds of personalities, and that's employee personalities, different customer personalities. I wanted to kind of put that out there. If you have major stressors in your business and you want to expand, don't be afraid to. You just got to find those right people to be that sponge, so that you can focus on the business part of it, and they can focus on the sand.
No, I love that. Yeah, I think I've heard this numerous times throughout the interview where, just investing in your business, investing in the right people, investing in infrastructure, whether it be software, good financial information. So that's a tremendous message. And yeah, you've both of you have shared some tremendous nuggets during the last, 45 minutes or so, and really do appreciate that, guys. Any final parting words before we jump off here?
We were those people at one point, right? And we were part of the only doing, 50 pools, 80 pools, 100 pools, or in revenue wise, $5, $6, $7, $8 million. And you're never going to get to the next level if you don't kind of just step back and say, hey, how do I put a buffer between me and the homeowner, or me and somebody else, and let me focus on the business? And look, there's anxiety in business every day. And a lot of people get taken back from that, and they get a little anxious about that. And you're going to have a good month. You're going to have a bad month. You're going to have a bad year. You may have a bad couple years, but guess what? It's only 1 year, or it's only 2 years. And it's not a lifelong, downturn. So just remember, just because you may have a good month or a bad month or a bad year, it's not the end of the world. Just don't do it again, and figure out what made you not succeed that particular month, and learn from it, and move forward from there. A lot of people get caught up in the stress of it, and just know that it's not long term. And I think stress can be a downturn for everybody. And I know that that's been a big part of our success, is knowing that we can still succeed even though you may have a bad month.
Awesome. Well, Brian, Rob, I know you're both busy people. I really do appreciate your time today and to share your wisdom, and hopefully there's a lot of owners out here really listen hard to what you've just shared today. Some great messages here, so thank you again, guys. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant to you, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clinkybeard, and I'd love to get you and your friends to join us in a future journey. So please subscribe to the various podcast channels, or visit thecommerciallandscaper.com or wilson360.com. Big thank you again to our partner Weathermatic, and I really encourage you to reach out to them and see about irrigation solutions or partnership with them. Hopefully you have a pure dead brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.